All right, so today we're going to be doing a panel for you called The Power of Parody Propels You. A long, rambly discussion about why things are funny.
I'm just curious, shouldn't there be a picture over there?
There should be a picture over there. Where did my picture go?
It was stolen by the copper thieves.
It was, people are, my video is plugged in, displays. Did somebody turn off the projector on me?
It's on. There's nothing going on with it.
Let me plug and replug it. I swear it was...
Reset the router?
I'm not sure why.
You can call Geek Squad if you want.
It was working, when I plugged it in, it was working earlier. Oh, here's mine. Jay.
Oh, sure, blame me. Are you sure?
It was working earlier. Sorry about
We strive for quality entertainment here
yes,
at our
we
panels.
do. Here we go. Okay, I see it shows up the second. There we go. All right, yay.
Technical difficulties are over.
All right.
For now.
All right, so here we are. We're back. Who are we? We are two rad dudes.
I don't feel so rad. Really?
I'm KefkaFloyd. You might know me from certain things I've done. I have a table here at the show. I do fan art. I draw things. You might also know me from my color guides. I'm the guy who is very meticulous about pony colors. And you may also know me as I'm the editor-in-chief of The Round Stable, the third most popular news site in the fandom. It's kind of not that great. It's an ignominious distinction, as it were. And with me is my good friend, Jay.
My name is Jay Heller. I am a PMV and parody editor for the past 2 years now. I've been making stuff like movie trailer parodies, made a couple things with the Boondocks, some, Avenue Q videos. It's been a crazy ride. And working with Ponies Anthology 2, and every month I do a top 10 PMV segment for the fandom. Yeah,
Sure.
feel out.
We're going to have video content later, too. So. And Jay also has a show on Everfree Network.
Yeah, no, we do a show every Thursday called PMV Today. It is right before Brony Breakdown. I don't know who those people are. There's some nobodies, but they're not. But we do a show just talking about video editing. You know, we talk with animators, video editors, and interview them and ask them how they do what they do and get in their heads about the ideas they have for their videos, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So why are we here? Well, we're here to talk about something that's very dear and important to me. And I love funny things. You guys like funny things? Yeah. Otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Well, here's the thing about funny things. This is very difficult to read from. I have like very extensive notes. And the other reason why you're all here is because you love ponies, right? So you all like it when we put ponies and funny things together. It's really great. Since the dawn of the fandom, we have tried to combine ponies and funny things. Sometimes it works, and it's funny. Sometimes, not so much. So what puts these things together? There are three core concepts in writing, in theater, and film, and everything else, called parody, satire, and homage. That's the rule of threes. Make note of that. First one is parody. Parody is what everybody here is familiar with. Parody is when you take a single thing, a piece of work, for instance, a specific song or a piece of art or whatever, and take it and essentially make fun of it by using other things to apply to that. Sorry about this. I did a whole rehearsal last night.
I feel like I had to do homework and studying for this.
Yeah, we did a lot of homework, And parody itself is meant to comment, mock, or trivialize a specific work. Spoofing, lampooning, so on and so forth. Something that everybody knows for parody is, for example, Weird Al. We'll talk about him a little more later, but everybody knows his parody songs. That's the kind of stuff that people think of when they think of parody. Okay? The next element we have is satire. Satire is a little more difficult than parody to do, because in most cases, satire, you're not just taking, one work and lampooning it. Satire, you're taking maybe a broader look at society or the fandom or something like that to, say, maybe portray it as something silly so that you can examine the actual problems with it.
Actually, you guys know, I mentioned Saber Spark earlier, you guys know his Brony 101 videos. And some of you have seen those, Alicorns and all of that, where he's kind of just freaking out. I mean, this is a good example of what you're talking about, because you guys probably remember when we first heard about Alicorn Twilight. The reactions we had, they were quite something. But, you know, stuff like that, where it's just kind of showing, like, people freaking out for the sake of, like, oh my god, the world's about to end, and just, like, it's like, chill out, guys, was the overall message. That's just one of the types of things that you only all remember in that category.
Yes. Very good example.
That we don't have visuals of.
Not yet. And then lastly, we have the idea of homage. As Mr. Bill Amend said in a very famous Foxtrot strip, it's not stealing, it's homage. Homage is when you take something and use elements from it to reference back to it and also to enhance your own work. Homage can come from all sorts of things, whether it's you want to say homage a specific way somebody drew, you want to homage their style, mimic it, for example, or you want to reference something in your own work to pay tribute to those who came before you. When Picasso was talking about great artists steal, homage was what he was talking about.
Good job.
Oh, all these notes here. See, this is why I don't like PowerPoints. You know. All right. Now, all of these elements are used in ponies, the fandom, everything else. How are these artists who use these things successful? Well, we've got a few examples of successful works and artists here for you. First one I go through in the general media. We see these elements everywhere. You watch film, television, music, everybody is parodying or homaging something in what they do. Most of the time, even when they're serious. Because as artists, we build ourselves on the shoulders of giants. You know, we're not doing this all on our own. We have a lot of people that we work for. First example, I brought up earlier, Mr. Weird Al Yankovic. Again, everybody knows Weird Al. What makes his songs successful is that he takes popular culture, music, and mashes them together. And his band is extremely good at music. If you listen, you know, to all those songs that Al does, they take they take a lot of pride, I should say, in making sure that the music sounds like what they are parodying, and that they have permission from the people that they are taking the source works from. Very important, and you know, especially when you're Al, you're a multi-million-dollar musician, being able to have people you're parodying okay with what you're doing is kind of important.
There's all these problems with, you know, like dealing with the copyright issues and all that, that you have to really address, and not only with what he does, you know, we're going to get to that a little later with ponies when we get back to all that. And,
yeah.
You know, but it's just, it's really kind of a tricky process, and he's at least got a good track record, I'm sure.
Yes, he does.
It's kind of like isn't it kind of just basically like an honor to be parodied?
Pretty much. You know, Weird Al calls you on the telephone, I think you're going to say yes to let him parody, you know. Something else, not just from music, but also in television. I love Animaniacs. Who here loves Animaniacs? All right. The great thing about Animaniacs, and why even today it's playing on the Hub, as you may or may not have heard, that it comes back and is still successful, is because a lot of the stuff that they do is timeless, and it applies to multiple generations. There's stuff that you might not have understood when you're a kid, but if you go back to it 20 years later, like now, and rewatch it, you might understand it a little better. It's good for parents, it's good for adults, and the people who do it are really funny. Now, because you'll have to allow me to indulge myself, I've brought a clip of basically one of my favorite bits from Animaniacs that I think takes the whole homage, satire, parody, mixes it all together into one of the best things they've ever done. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear the audio.
Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, yes. Skippy, what's the name of that group playing on stage?
Oh.
The name of the group?
Oh.
The group on stage?
Oh.
The group playing on stage?
Oh.
You're starting to sound like an owl, Skippy.
Who's on stage?
That's what I'm asking you. Who is on stage?
That's what I said.
You said who?
I sure did.
So tell me the name.
Who?
The name of the group.
Who?
The group on stage.
Who?
The name of the band on stage.
Who?
You're doing that owl thing again, Skippy.
I am not Aunt Slappy. I'm telling you who's on stage.
So tell me.
Who?
The name of the group.
Who?
The group on stage.
Who?
That's what I'm asking you.
And I'm telling you the answer.
Wait, Skippy, let's start over. Is there a band on stage?
Yes.
Does that band have a name?
Yes.
Do you know the name of that band?
Yes.
Then tell me the name of the band on stage.
Who?
The name of the band.
Who?
The band on stage.
Who?
The band playing on stage.
Who?
That's what I want to know.
I'm telling you.
Who is on stage?
Yes.
Who is?
Yes.
Oh, so the name of the band is Yes.
No, Aunt Slappy. Yes is not even at this concert.
Then who is on stage?
Yes.
Who is?
Yes.
That's what I just said. Yes is on stage.
No, Yes is not here. Who is on stage?
What are you asking me for?
I'm not.
Wait, let's try this again. Do you see the band on stage?
No, I don't see the band. That's a different group entirely.
On stage, Skippy. Look, see the band?
No, I don't.
Get rid of those John Lennon glasses and look. There's the band.
No, that's not the band. The band is performing later on. Who's on stage?
You tell me.
Who?
The name of the group on stage.
Who?
The name of the group.
Who?
The group on stage.
Who?
The band.
No, the band is performing later. Right now we're listening to who?
That's what I want to know.
Hey, you squirrels are funny, man. Come on up here and take a bow.
Oh, okay, so here's the thing about that bit. When I saw that bit, I think the first time I was 10 years old, I forget whatever that was, 13. See, I had actually never heard of Abbott and Costello, because that bit right there, referencing the classic Who's on First, Abbott and Costello, never seen it before in my life. But I did know who the Who, Yes, and the band were. So, and even if you don't know who those bands are, that bit is still funny. That's what makes it great. That's why those guys are great. When you do your works, you have to make sure that, pretty much people can get it even if they don't understand the reference. So now what we're going to talk about is how these elements are used in My Little Pony. Or not, they do a lot of stuff like that. Prime example that I give is Art of the Dress. Everybody here has seen Suited for Success, right? Hopefully, yeah. Art of the Dress takes all three elements, parody, satire, and homage, and blends them together into just a very biting commentary on the creative process. And this is basically what sold me on the show, because that is my life every day, essentially being Rarity. And so just being able to have somebody articulate this and have a kid watching on TV who might be learning something about this is just amazing to me. And they just kept nailing it out of the park every single time.
As a creator too, he doesn't just have to be, videos what I do, but almost any creator, in that situation, you have the artist making, these good decisions, and they're making sound decisions about their product, and you have these people who may not know so much about it, making like, I don't know about that. It seems, and they're criticizing, and in this case, it's for customers, it's for commission, and they are putting all these other requests that may not be the best decision. So as creators, we've gone through that. We're just like, sometimes making sacrifices for the sake of your audience or the people who you are doing the work for, and that speaks to a lot of us, I think, as well.
Very well. Okay. And then another thing, aside from the show, the comics is full of this kind of stuff. Andy Price and Katie Cook and Heather Newfer and Amy Memberson love to homage things. Perfect example right here is page number 3 from MLP number 1. All of these background ponies are a reference to something. It's great, because that way, even if you're not a fan of every single thing that's in there, there's almost always something in there for you. That way you get that sort of Where's Waldo experience. It really brings people into the artwork. And then, of course, we have the fandom. Because in the fandom, we love to reference things. It's what we do. It makes us feel good about ourselves. Whether you produce fan art, you write fan fiction, you make comics, or bridge series, or even PMVs. You can take these elements and produce all sorts of interesting things. Some examples from the fandom. Everybody knows Friendship is Witchcraft, right? Yeah. Friendship is Witchcraft is a perfect example of a satirical series. The entire thing is designed to poke and make fun at the show, the fandom, whatever Jenny and Griffin want to do. And it's there as a satirical way of poking fun at. They look at it, they turn it upside down and use it as a way to poke fun of itself, because if we can't laugh at ourselves, who can we laugh at? And of course, we have various parody videos. You know, since I have Jay here with me, I figured he could clue us in on something.
So this first one, parody videos is a huge part of the fandom, and it's always taking stuff like this. I don't know, there's an old Flash series called There She Is. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah, that one guy. It's a relationship story about a cat and a rabbit, and it goes through this whole series about they have to fight a lot of oppression to actually finally get to be with one another. And now this is not the entire thing, but an artist by the name of Alpha 995, who you may know from Cardcaptor Derby and a bunch of other things, mostly Derby stuff. They made this homage, I would say, almost to that series. This is really just the first 30 seconds of the first episode, but I'm going to play it for you here and just kind of see how we adapted that, something that's originally about a love story between a cat and a rabbit, and we put ponies in it. So, go ahead.
Let's rock and roll.
That's only the first 30 seconds right there, but if you actually go back and advertisements, and if you actually go back and look at the original, he pretty much everything the same from the split screen at that one section where it shows both of them on each side of the screen, to the fact that, having the drink, now he adapted the drink, instead of originally he poured apple cider into that cup with some apples in it. Originally it was, I believe, tuna juice, or it was originally a tuna machine and a carrot machine for cats and rabbits. So, adapting it to our world, the world we love so much. And, this is something, that's just one small taste of what is out there for parody, homage, and satire that we got going for us here. So.
All right. So now that you have a basic idea of what parody, satire, and homage are, and how they work into things, now we must know what not to do. Because knowing what not to do makes us stronger. What are the traps of referencing things, especially when you're making your pony stuff? The very first one is the one everybody falls into, and it's don't just add ponies. Believe it or not, you can't just go and put a pony in something and expect it to be good. It actually takes some work. And believe it or not, we have an example for you of something.
Before you play it. Okay.
I'm letting you go.
So basically, we're trying to come up with examples of what out there right now, especially in video, would cover, just adding, what added pony for the sake of adding pony. And we had a few things going back and forth, but we came to the conclusion, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings and call anyone out and that kind of thing. So I decided to make one video on my own, just for this panel, just kind of give an example of what not to do. Now, there's a new anime out called Attack on Titan. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. And I like it a lot, it's really good. And the intro is really cool. And so I decided to take something I really like and essentially ruin it. And I ruin the things I love, but we do it.
He does it because he loves.
I do. So essentially this is basically a big example of what not to do in every sense of the way. It's not just adding ponies. I had some fun along the way. Actually, this is the most fun I've had making a video in a long time. But,
and it's premiering just for you here at EQLI.
Yeah, this is an exclusive. I apologize beforehand if this insults anybody. This is done on purpose, so go ahead.
Come
It was the biggest, you know, and basically it was, like I said, that was the most fun I've had making a video in a long time. It was really fun. But yeah, it was just basically the essential thing is, as you can see, just the point of the deal. Was that video good? You know what I mean?
It's the best poorly made video I've ever seen.
Exactly. You know, I see people shaking their heads. I see people shaking their heads. Yes, you're right. That is not a good video at all. That is quite horrid. And that's the point we're trying to make, is just, you don't just want to add characters from the show and things from the show just for the sake of it, because that's just not going to, you know, I don't know what to say, like, you need to do it properly.
It's like, you want to make something that's interesting and unique on its own. If somebody has never seen ponies or that, it's like they're just not going to get it. And even then, you know, anybody can just go and throw ponies into something. If you want to make something special, it takes a little more than that. And we've got some examples here of some things that you should do and should not do to avoid these traps. The first one is you must understand and appreciate the source in order to mock it. The important thing there is that if you don't, it just kind of makes you look like a jerk. Okay? When you're doing these things, in most cases, you're not really in it to make fun of people. You're in it because you like where it came from. You say, yeah, I really like that. Let's see if we can make it even better by putting these two things together. He doesn't have anything to say?
Oh, worst guy, no, I actually do. Because most of the times when we make stuff for our parodies and such, it's stuff we really like anyways. I mean, why would you want to mark stuff really that you don't really like? It's stuff we always do like, so there's always kind of at least an underlying appreciation for what you're working with.
Even if you're skewering it.
Very from the get-go, you know, yeah, even if you're skewering it, there's something you know, and sometimes you love something, but you know, you just have to say something like, you know, again, we can go back to Friendship's Witchcraft and make so many jokes about the fandom and all of that. But they really love the show. They really love the people who watch their content. So, you know, it just goes back to that. And you already usually have that appreciation.
Yep. The next item is related to that, and is to be respectful, not crass. Okay? Because nobody likes that guy, okay, who just comes up and thinks he can just drop stuff in. You're doing this, again, because you love and understand it. And by being respectful, that means stuff like not taking other stuff that doesn't belong to you, or other things like that. The other thing is, while you're in the process of making the joke, don't explain it. Again, nobody likes that guy. Tell the joke. If it's funny, it'll go through. If it doesn't, then maybe you've learned something to go for the next time. That doesn't mean that everybody has to get your jokes, because not everybody is going to get that. That's just the nature of the business. But it just means that when you put things through, you know, explaining is great for panels. Okay, it's great for behind the scenes. When you're delivering, don't do it. You're just going to ruin it.
There was one thing you mentioned earlier how, you know, when you were a young kid, you watched animes, you didn't completely get the joke.
Exactly.
But it still had the elements that made it funny. For me, actually, that was The Simpsons in a way. When I was a kid, I watched it. You know, I didn't get what the level of depth with their humor that they had a lot of the time when I was a kid. I still found the content funny for, you know, the other gags and such, but when you go back and watch a show and you realize the depth and you're like, oh wow, I now understand this a lot more. I mean, it's going back to exactly what you said, but that appreciation is much more.
But it also means that sometimes, even if you don't understand 100%, it might spur you to go and learn more about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so even if somebody doesn't get it right away, they might go on and learn more about it, and then they might come back and expect even more. It's very important to me, is don't betray the spirit of the show. You know,
sorry. We already did it a million times.
we kind of did, but that was you know, they would understand. You know, the idea is that if you're doing something that is totally incongruous with the show, you run the risk of turning people off. Because let's face it, a lot of you are probably watching this show because it's happy, sunshine friendship ponies. We're in this to feel good and have a good time. A lot of cases, you know, some people might take something and do something that's untoward with it, and, you know, you're probably just going to wind up turning people off. Some people might appreciate it, some might not. But always keep in mind, you know, what this show is for, who the target audience is for, and, you know, just make sure that you don't do something that, you know, you might make you look bad. And lastly, the most important one is don't rip people off. Don't steal people's stuff and claim it as your own. That's very bad. There is a difference between plagiarizing and homage. You know, plagiarizing is just up and lifting somebody's thing, putting it in yours, and claiming it as your own. You haven't changed it sufficiently enough. When you're doing a parody, you need to change it and add value in some way. You know, just for example, earlier when I put up my pictures up there, you saw one of those ones. It was I think I had Make Some Friends up there. Yeah. Make Some Friends is an homage to a classic World War II propaganda poster. But I didn't just take the original poster and just paste the two ponies onto it. I went and redrew it, repainted it. It was all completely done from scratch. There's nothing taken from the original item there.
It's something we take it very seriously, but at the same time, it's kind of unspoken within the video community, at least from my perspective. I don't have as much on the other sides, but you know, crediting sources, if you're using someone else's work in yours, and I've done that sometimes, and it's always just, you know, common courtesy.
Always ask. You know,
Yeah,
if you want to borrow somebody's stuff, like some people release, like I think Feedsy released the stuff from Dork.
For instance, you know, one example you've all seen, Dork PMV. I've seen quite a few of you may have seen that. It's an excellently done video. He used a lot of assets from another source that was from another person's video, and he adapted it to the show and the ponies, and he obviously, one of the first things he did, credited all the sources he used from that other video, because it's important to, you know, say some people thought he had made all this stuff, you know, by himself, and he did a great job with adapting it, but he made sure to credit the other person, and the other person, I think they saw it, and they said, yeah, that's great, awesome stuff, and it was just, but it's just, you know, you don't want to just upload it wholesale and just, you know, claim it's yours. I mean, obviously, for obvious reasons, that's a jerk move, so.
Yes. All right, so now we're on to the second part, the big part. And we're talking about how we create a parody, our work process, and what it takes to actually make this stuff go on that screen. And how many of you have seen the hastily made Ponyville tourism video? Okay, we've got some people, that's good. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna see it here today, because we're gonna talk about how we made it. So, in order to understand the hastily made Ponyville tourism video, we must understand what inspired it. In which case, what inspired it was Mike Polk's hastily made Cleveland tourism videos. Okay? Now, I'm sure some of you guys must have seen that, and I just lost my place on my notes, and I apologize. I know, I'm a bad guy.
Stop the panel.
You know.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah. And so, the deal with the hastily made Cleveland tourism video was that Mike Polk, who lives in Cleveland, he has a very big love of where he lives. But the reality is that these days, Cleveland hasn't been doing too hot. So having a lot of other areas in this country, if you haven't noticed lately. And he decided to just go and say, you know what, if I'm gonna be stuck here, I might as well have a good time about it. And so, what we're gonna do first is we're gonna play the actual hastily made Cleveland tourism video. I must apologize to Mr. Polk, because we are a PG-rated panel here. We had to edit out some of the cuss words. We're sorry, Mike, we don't like sanitizing things, but we had to do it. And so, just in case if you hadn't all seen the original video, here it is for your viewing pleasure.
Fun times in Cleveland today, Cleveland. Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Come and look at both of our buildings. Buy some food that's prepared near the street. Who knows, you might even see this guy. You should come on down to West 6th Street. It's the perfect place if you're in bed. Watch the poor people all wait for buses. Who the still uses a payphone? Here's the place where there used to be industry. This train is carrying jobs out of Cleveland. Cleveland leads the nation in drifters. Here's a statue of Moses Cleveland. He's the guy who invented Cleveland. Yeah!
I had a few ways of censoring some of those words. I decided on the squee noise just because I did not have Fluttershy, unfortunately, in hand.
Woohoo, way to go.
The go-to.
All right, so what we gotta do is, now that we have our source, we have to figure out what are the components, how do we successfully parody them, how do we bring them together to put ponies in it without it looking bad or low effort or lousy. Because believe it or not, even though the title is the hastily made Ponyville tourism video, I think it took us, what, a month to do all the work?
Yeah, about so, and but the reason was because there were so many different components we had to basically reconstruct from scratch.
Yes. The first thing is, you gotta rewrite all the lyrics. I did that with a little help from Jay. The next thing we had to do is we had to create the song. We actually had to go and re-record the entire background song, you know, for a variety of reasons, licensing, all that junk. We had to go and sing the new song.
Neither of which did that because we are not good at that.
And lastly, we had to make the video to put it all together. All right? So, we had this idea right before Everfree Northwest, somewhere in Seattle. Both of us are in that picture somewhere. Where we were just sitting around at my buddy's place having a barbecue. And we were saying to ourselves, I think I just brought up the Cleveland video on my phone. And I said, oh, you know, have you ever seen this? Like, no. I said, oh, we should do this with ponies. And the kicker was, at the end of the second Cleveland video, there's a line that goes, at least we're not Detroit. And I said, hey, you know, we can do at least we're not Detroit. And we all thought it was wicked funny. So we said, okay, let's get the gears in motion and start doing this. The first step was we had to write the lyrics. That was my job. It was a very difficult job. It's much harder than you would think it was to do some of these things.
Yeah, and I mean, you showed me what you had, and it was really just a matter of like, we just need to, you just bang it out and just keep, you know, passing ideas between one another. Like you said, I did help you. I contributed 1 or 2 lines to the overall lyric process, or told you, like, okay, maybe we don't say, we go with this instead of this. You know, it was just, it's anyone who's done it.
You don't want to be afraid of taking suggestions from others, basically, because who knows? They might have a funnier idea that you didn't have. It's okay. It's not a personal thing unless they actually are being personal about it, in which case you can take it or leave it. My opinion is that criticism, even if it's harshly worded, you might be able to take some kind of nugget of something from it. So you should always consider what everybody says, even if they're jerks about it. But the main thing with writing these parody songs is that a lot of people tend to fall in a trap where they just substitute a word here or there. And I mean, we did do that once or twice in this, but you can't just go and just take, you know, take the line, replace one word with pony and say, oh yeah, this is gonna do it. No, you got to, Weird Al does this, you know, he takes the entire thing, he rewrites it from scratch. It may not have anything to do with the original song, you know, that he wrote, but that's the opportunity, that's the greatness. You can lampoon something by taking something else, using the implications from that, and then taking your writing and bringing it together into something that's new and interesting. But you still want to be able to, you know, evoke some of the stuff that people liked about the original thing to begin with. So it's a balancing act. You don't want to be just ripping somebody off and just changing one word here and there, but you still need to be able to go back and feel like you can reference the original. All right. So the next bit is having a song. And making a song is pretty hard. How many of you are musicians? Okay, we've got some musicians here. It's not easy. I mean, I can play an instrument, kind of, you know, first chair, bass, clarinet. Woo.
I have no musical talent whatsoever.
But I can't write music to save my life. Fortunately, and this is as an artist something that you can do, you need to have a network of people you know that can help you out when things are not going all so great, or you need to be able to do something. And fortunately, we both have a mutual friend who does that for us. You might have heard of him. His music by Octavia. He does songs for the fandom. Like if you've heard the Kazoo Winter Wrap-Up, I think he did. He did that. He does a lot of covers and homages in his own music. And Octavia is really important to us, aside from the fact that he's a very good friend, is that he's actually a professional scorer for film and television. If you've watched something on TV, odds are that he might have had a hand in it. You know, he's done a lot of stuff. I don't want to get, you know, too deep into it, but he has, he's definitely prolific. Yeah.
You know, he does music prolifically. He just does all these different styles. He did bluegrass. He did the kazoo. He's done rock, and
jazz.
Jazz. No, his styles all over. What is the other one? God, it was like a more tropical.
Yeah,
but essentially, he's able to adapt his style so well. That's why he really is really awesome that he was actually able to help us out with anything.
Yeah. So what he did is he wrote a sound-alike version of that background song, And the advantage of having a sound-alike version is, number one, we don't know where that song came from, so locating it might have been difficult. But number two, with the sound-alike, it means we avoid any kind of legal or other issues. It's a derivative work. It's covered under parody. Because when you make a parody, presuming that your work is different enough, in the United States, we are lucky enough that our First Amendment protections allow us to be able to mock or parody or do sound-alikes. Now, if we had done something one note for note exactly like that original thing, we would have gotten in trouble. But since we didn't, we're in the clear. So this is Octavia's information. That's his YouTube channel. That's his album. He just had an album released. We highly recommend you all go out and buy it and support him because he's a very cool dude.
At the very least, check out the YouTube channel. Make some great stuff.
You might have heard some of his stuff before. And of course, the second component of the song is singing. Who here likes to sing? We all like to sing, don't we? Well, the problem is that some of us are not as good at singing as we like to think we were.
Mostly you.
Well, the original idea with the hastily made Ponyville tourism video is that Octavia would do the music and I would do the singing. And that would have been okay because I would have done it like how Mike did it, where it was kind of this sort of phoning it in, kind of bad singing. But Octavia was like, if we're gonna do this, it needs to be good singing. And I said, okay. We'll do that. So fortunately, again, we went to a mutual friend of ours who posts on the Round Stable forums. His name is Aramek. His Tindeck is up there. And the guy is an amateur voice actor, but he's extremely good. You might have heard him. I don't remember anything he's done. But he has when you say, he has a beautiful man voice. And
good job. Good friends we are. Like, have you ever heard of anything he's done? No, I'm sorry.
What I should have done is I should have taken something from him. But in either case, he's very good at singing. He has a full sound booth. He makes professional recordings, so it doesn't sound lousy, which is very important when you're trying to do something that you don't want to sound lousy. And then lastly, we had to make the video. What happened was Octavia we finished writing the lyrics. We gave it to Octavia. He wrote the song. He keyed everything up. We gave it to Aramek. He sang the melody and the harmonies. Octavia put it all together, and then we had a song. Then we had to give the song over to this gentleman to be able to make the video. I forget if the next slide is the actual video or not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
All right, so now you get to talk.
No, basically, from that point, it's just referencing the original video in a lot of ways. So you may have noticed in the original video, there's a lot of shaky cam and playing off of, we had to play off the lyrics and find visuals from the show for it. So just to give you an idea, instead of like they said in the original, look at both of our buildings, and in our parody, we came up with the lyric of, come to our store that only sells two things, which is a reference to the Quills and Sofa shop. And so obviously it's just showing a scene where Spike's standing outside and he's trying, with outside Davenports and just trying to get the quill when we don't have a sofa,
And so in this video, we didn't do any of our own animation for it. This is all cribbed from the show. It's true PMV.
Right, it's basically scene selection and just added effects to kind of mimic the original video. And just working with the lyrics as best we could and just adding assets, in the best way that would be as true to the original, but at the same time it's establishing itself as its own thing as a parody with MLP.
All right, so the moment you've all been waiting for, we're actually going to watch the hastily made Ponyville tourism video.
Making friends in Ponyville today. Ponyville. Well, from down to Ponyville, everybody. Check out our store that only sells two things. Get some books from our tree library. Just don't mind the crazy librarian. You should trot on down to see our boutique. It's a perfect place to be judgmental. Our weather Mary's so freaking lazy. Who the hate still uses an abacus. Here's the stuff that got eaten by fairy sprites. This man let them all in from the forest. Only delete Equestria disasters. But then again, it could always be worse. Cause at least we're not dead trapped. We're not dead trapped.
So So, the big thing there that, at least for me, the keys of the original video that made it as funny as it was, is we had to go back and look and see what those things were. To me, the main thing was the cinematography. It's just lousy in the original video. The guy's hand-holding his camera, he's not using a tripod or a steady cam. He's using his power zoom constantly. There's camera shake everywhere, there's massive exposure errors. You know, it's that sort of stuff where it literally, when he said in his thing where they did it in, what, 2 days? Yeah. You actually believe that they did that. And that was something that actually took us a lot of work to do, because I'm, as some of you may know, I'm kind of picky about things. And I was giving Jay a hard time here and there about that shaky cam.
You know, I never knew, like, I never understood how difficult it could be to get just the right shaky cam, just the right amount of shakiness. But until about the 10th time you came back and said, "Nah, do it over again." Okay.
Well, because you got to have a little rotation and all this other stuff.
But yeah, just doing stuff like that, and like there's some blur effects zooming in and out that try to make it look at least a little authentic. Like it looks like it's somebody like manhandling a camera as they're walking around Ponyville and just doing a terrible job of filming everything. But
yeah, and that, you know, that's really trying to nail those details. It's like somebody might not notice that right off the top of their head, but there are people who do, and they appreciate that, and it also just adds more texture and flavor to your work. Because you could just go and do something to say, okay, yeah, we'll just do this random shaky cam, whatever, not really paying attention to how it goes. But what sets the average apart from the great is attention to detail. And you need to make sure that everything you do has that kind of attention to detail. Otherwise, you know, in my opinion, why bother?
definitely.
And of course, with this thing, like I said, even though it's called the Hastily Made Ponyville Tourism Video, it took us about a month to do it, which meant we had to go back and change a lot of things on all of the on all parts. Like, for example, when writing the lyrics, we originally didn't have "Who the Hay Still Uses an Abacus." You know, we were trying to think of what we could do for who the still uses a payphone. You know, because that was just one of the most out there things for it. It's like in My Little Pony, it's full of these anachronisms and other things. And we're trying to say what keeps true to the show and what can we get from the material that's in the show that can still get that same sort of feeling. And Jay had the idea of who the hay still uses an abacus. And it was genius. And it's like, I didn't even think of it. I'm like, we're going to use that idea and we're going to go with it.
Meanwhile,
again,
Luna's so sad. She still uses one.
And then, as we mentioned before, with the video editing, we had to go through and do all of that. The songs, like I said, there is a take out there somewhere of me singing the song, and it's kind of lousy. I don't think it's ever left my computer.
And let it stay there in the box and warehouses where it will never be found.
Yes, it should never be released.
Indiana Jones in your computer.
And then, though, with Aramek with his singing, I mean, he nailed it. Like, first take, we heard it, and it was like, wow, this is great. You know, sometimes, if you know you have something great, don't go back and try to redo it again, because you might just screw it up. You know, so you say, if you're confident that something is good, give it to somebody, have them do it once over. If people are agreeing with you that it's good, then you've done the right thing. And that's really, you know, the end of the panel. You know, we were going to have a section here, you know, if anybody here is content creators, if you had any ideas, you want to ask us questions or you want to ask him questions, because I'm the B-lister here, so.
Yeah, you did all the talking. That's okay.
Now it's your turn to be talking. Anybody have questions? No. Otherwise, I can keep talking. I don't think anybody really wants to hear me talk, though.
No, it's the other questions about anything, content creation or anything like that. Just if you have ideas yourself.
If you have a question, you can come up here. There's a microphone, I think. Otherwise,
no.
Because we actually have people have questions. Great. Yeah. Oh yeah. Testing. I'm not going with stuff.
No, the cups are going to go.
The cups are going to go. There we go.
Hello, I'm Lynn.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Lynn.
I was just wondering, can we watch more of your random parody videos?
Oh, we do have some. We do, in fact, have some more.
I would enjoy that.
We can do that after the Q&A. More videos.
Yeah.
All right. We can give it a shot. Next in line.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Name's Matt. And I think my question is, what's the typical tool set that you guys use to
Good question.
put this together?
For videos and stuff, I think Jay could probably talk a little more about that.
Specifically, just want to know like the programming, the programs used, or the tools. Oh, you're talking about the skills.
Sure. What's on your tool belt?
My tool belt. Well, I mean, you can start out. There's. It's not just the programs that you use. It's just there's also beyond that. But if anyone's curious about that particular video, the Ponytail Tourism, that was made with a combination of Sony Vegas 10 Pro, which is important to have the Pro because there are limitations on the other ones. But then also After Effects 5.5 at the time. But you want to talk about as an editor, other things that you may need. The first thing I gotta say every time is patience, because editing is, when you get down to it, it can be a lot of fun, but it can be a lot of tedious work. And as you can spend a day working on what will end up being 2 seconds of total of your video, and it's just the types of effects or whatever you need to do. It can be a lot of tedious work, so if you have to be prepared to kind of go drive yourself insane a lot of the time to get what you need to get done. And that is the number one thing I always tell people who ask me, if they're interested in trying to make their own stuff, what's the best way you can recommend, what's the good characteristic? And it's like that a million times that.
Something else you should always have as part of your metaphorical tool belt is a wide knowledge on a broad variety of subjects. You don't want to limit yourself too much because, for instance, with Animaniacs, again, to go back to them, they pulled from so many areas, and being able to reference different things means you can talk to different people. It also makes you a more interesting person in general.
And another thing, huge thing is the passion to keep learning your craft, because if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, it gets boring real quick. And so doing things, in my case with editing, finding new effects to use, new ways to implement them, just learning new things, that is always important, and keeping you interested. And again, like I said, you don't want to drive yourself insane. You want to have fun. That is the bottom line of what we do. We're making our stuff for audiences, for you guys. And we want to have fun while we're doing it, and that's the best things I can try to recommend out to people, in my metaphorical tool belt.
If you like Twilight, read a lot of books, have a lot of books in your field. They're very important, and you can always draw from them.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
I just want to say, actually, I'm really impressed by the panel.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I haven't totally destroyed myself yet.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Hi there.
My name's David.
Hi, David.
And I was wondering, what were your thoughts on Double Rainbow? Because that was absolutely chock full of references.
Yeah.
Well, just refilling my beverage.
Yeah. Double Rainbow really had I interviewed Zach Rich on my show and plugged that all good stuff.
And we did for the round table as well.
Yeah. Zach Rich was the main coordinator of Double Rainbow, and he was always advocating putting extras in the background. A scene that particularly stands out is when he showed Rarity with the dresses. I don't know, when they're contemplating what powers would they have, and you would see all the outfits that she made references to. I remember Harley Quinn was one of them. There's a ton of references not only there but all over the place. And I thought that as an editor myself, I always loved putting little Easter eggs, extras in the background, so I can't complain about what he did in that regard. And in terms of the parody, when they chose to do parody, and I felt it was subtle. It wasn't so in your face a lot of the time, and I can appreciate that. And it's always, I don't know, you feel like you're part of this special crowd when you actually notice something like that. But when it's not spelled out for you.
But and a corollary or some other element to that is when you're designing something, because with these things you really are, it really is a design. You're trying to put elements together into a cohesive whole. And something about with design is that you need to find, especially with references, you need to find the right balance. Because sometimes if you go a little too much, and I don't think that that was the case with most of Double Rainbow, but if you go a little too far over, you know, you will just want to get to that reaching point where it's just enough. You need to pare back a little bit, just a little more each time until you get that right balance. Because if a design has just one element too many, whether it's a song or a video or a piece of art, it can tend to fall apart on itself. So you always have to make sure, and I felt with Double Rainbow, you know, Zach, I felt as a project for his senior thesis, essentially, as an animation project, I thought it was extremely well done on that front. Because he showed a wide breadth of things that he did homage and satire, especially in the about halfway through the video. There were certain things there where I'm like, wow, they absolutely nailed it. That's about really what I could say about that.
Yeah. Thumbs up. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are these gifts for us?
Yes, they are.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Antonio, and my question is for musical-based parodies. Do you feel they are more successful with or without a musical video to go along with them?
It's no lie that music can play a huge role in the popularity a video gets. Essentially, you know, more people are going to want to listen to something that's catchy and more current, or something they know versus something from like the 1950s.
Well, what I mean is, do you think the music itself, the parody song, do you think it's more successful with the video or without?
It depends, because I think they have to stand on their own. You know, a good song is a good song no matter what, even if you don't have a video to it. Again, I'll go back to Weird Al. He has great examples of his music videos. Perfect one, Jurassic Park. You know, where they have the claymation. Yeah, see, he understands. Where you have the claymation Jurassic Park, and that song by itself is a great riff on MacArthur Park. And about halfway through, it has this beautiful solo, that da-da-da-da-da thing, you know, that's going on there. But when you put the video into it, it just takes it to a whole nother level. And the two combine to, you know, some sort of strange Voltron-esque video thing. And he's always had a talent for that. But a bad video will just be a bad video on its own. You know, it's a case where the song will still be a good song. People will recognize that the song is still good, the video not so much, but they might say, well, you know, if you made the video yourself, they say, well, this guy's a good musician, but his video skills are so-so. Maybe he'll hook up with somebody who can make videos, and then the next time a song of his comes around, you can do it, and your powers combined, that sort of thing.
Yep. Sometimes a collaborative effort just comes together like that, and you know, if you're weak in one area, it doesn't always hurt to, you know, obviously learn, like I said before, learn more and try to just improve in your skills. It's always recommended.
Did I answer your question satisfactorily? All right. That was a great question. Hello.
Hi, I'm Tom. So I have a question that kind of goes into, like, you know, ruining a fandom or something, or ruining something you're a fan of.
Please don't ask me an awkward question.
It will go on for hours.
Well, actually, you know, it's about something else. As we all know, Michael Bay has made a lot of deals with Hasbro, you know, Transformers, Battleship. Now, this is a scenario I've thought of many times in my head with some friends. What if Michael Bay were to direct a My Little Pony movie? What would be your thoughts?
I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I made a video, an anthology 2-short that was rejected, which was Michael Bay Directs Ponies. And
I believe I saw that.
It was just, you've already seen it, you already know, explosions everywhere. I did not have any, what was it, Mountain Dew references?
I think so.
Yeah, no, I didn't cover everything, but you get the very essential idea. Like, the audio kills everything, the explosion audio, and it's just, I don't think we have anything to worry about that in real life, though, but...
Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting subject. I mean, one thing is that, my opinion is that there's a lot of room in this not necessarily in the fandom, but for the show itself, for the elements to be taken in a variety of different creative directions. And I've been seeing, here's an example. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I was in, I'm from Boston, can't tell. I went down to Rhode Island for the launch of the Under the Sparkling Sea book. Have you guys heard about that? It's a new My Little Pony children's book. And in the book, it's done by an illustrator, Mary Jane McGinn. She's a professor at the Rhode Island School of Design. And inside each of the spreads, she did these fantastic paintings of pastel and watercolor, and they're just unreal when you actually see them. But she's been getting a lot of flack, in my opinion, unfairly, because fans are saying, well, it looks too earlier gen, or it's got sea ponies, or this, that, and the other thing. And I think what the problem is that a lot of people are trying to keep this show and the characters in a box sort of thing. Like if it's not exactly like what they see on TV, then they don't, care for it artistically, which I think is a shame. In the comic books right now, there's multiple creative teams that are handling the officially licensed MLP comic books. In the mainline series, it started off with Andy Price and Katie Cook, who did the art and the writing, respectively, the Return of Queen Chrysalis arc. How many of you guys read the comics? Yeah. All right. In the second arc that's going on right now, it's being handled by a second creative team, which is Heather Newford, who lives here in Los Angeles, and Amy Maverson, who's also here on the West Coast. And their style is a little different than Andy's. Amy's visually doesn't use as strong shadows. The way she draws ponies is a little different, more like the show, but still flexible in how they have their expressions and body language. And Heather's writing is not as dense in terms of words as Katie's is, but they're both extremely talented teams. And before the second arc came out, and I was seeing some people who were saying, well, these guys aren't doing it, why should I pick it up? And I'm like, that's not really the way you want to think about it. You want to try to keep an open mind and just try to experience something on its own merits. If you read it and you don't like it, well, that's your opinion. You're allowed to have that opinion. But in order to keep this fresh, we're in 3 seasons of the show already. We're having something else coming up soon. Season 4 is coming. And just being able to take these things in different directions, I think, is very important just to keep it fresh so it doesn't get stale. Because the TV show has lots of limitations. Animation is very expensive to make. The toolkits that they're using, even though DHX is fantastic at doing what they do, Flash is still Flash and they're still working within their confines. There are things you can do in a comic book in that printed form that you can't do on television. So harping on something because it's not exactly like the show isn't the way to go. To bring that back to Mr. Michael Bay, my opinion is that I probably wouldn't like his take. I would give it a shot and I'll say, okay, I'd watch it and say blah, blah. But ultimately, the spirit of the show, and I'm guessing you're asking that because of, the Transformers that came out. And I take it you're a Transformers fan too?
I was until Michael Bay touched it.
Well, another example, like these other Hasbro, you mentioned Battleship. Battleship didn't have any core or anything to draw from. I thought it was still a pretty funny movie. But take G.I. Joe. Any G.I. Joe fans here? All right. How many of you saw the recent G.I. Joe sequel that just came out last month? Okay. I saw it too. And the first G.I. Joe movie that came out, it wasn't that great of a movie, I'll be honest, but it had a character to it. It had a sort of, it had a reason for existence. The second movie just felt so thematically different and off from what it was that, I gotta wrap this up, that it didn't feel like G.I. Joe. And I saw what they were trying to do. I didn't agree with it. If they're going to do another movie like that, I'm not going to see it. But it's like, even Snake Eyes being, awesome on the big screen could not save that movie. My advice is just to say, keep your mind open, try new things. If you don't like it, that's fine. But at least give people the freedom to be able to try it and make those mistakes. All right? Thank you very much. And that's it for us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
For coming out and seeing our hastily made
Panel?
panel in general. I wrote it on the airplane.
I didn't even know it was on until about 2 days ago, so I'm honest.
That's not true, you knew about it. All right, so thank you very much for coming, and stick around for whatever panel is coming next. I don't want to offend whoever that was. I'm sure your panel is going to be awesome.
Thanks, guys.